What's going on, guys? So I have a regional to prepare for coming up in 2 weeks, and I want to go through a tier list for the meta, like that represents what I'll be preparing for and what I expect to be seeing, not only at my regionals, but kind of at the next YCSs of the format. I think Lil is in the format before the release of the next set. So this is kind of what I predict to be the case. And we're going to go through. So my tiers are best decks, many regionals tops. So these are good decks that are kind of well represented that I think can, well, obviously top a lot of regionals. Then we have sneaky, which I think are really good decks, but nobody really plays them, or kind of like are low-key good, but we're not going to see a lot of results. And then we have rogue to finish it off. Okay, so let's just go through whatever this list is. So we have branded with only one branded fusion. This deck is between many regionals tops and sneaky. I don't really know what the representation is, but I'm going to put it down at sneaky because I feel like not a lot of people are going to want to play branded anymore. Even though it's still very playable with one branded fusion, I don't think it'll see a lot of representation. So I'm going to put it in sneaky, which means you have to think about it when building, but you're probably not going to see it very much. Centurion, I think I'm going to put down in rogue as well. People are going to be turned off of this deck because Calamity is gone. So it wasn't really topping anything before with Calamity. So now I think it's especially not going to, see representation. Chimera Fiendsmith, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think this is going to be up in many regionals tops. I think this is a really strong deck. It's not really affected that much by the loss of Lacrima or Beatrice or Appaloosa, and it can still put out really solid boards. So I think this is where it goes. Dragon Link, I think, is going to see a resurgence. I think we're going to see Dragon Link up in many regionals tops as well. I think people are going to re-dig into this deck just because we don't have Appaloosa to deal with anymore. I think Bystials are very strong in the format. So I think we could see it up in here. Maybe in the sneaky category. Maybe I'm being a little bit too generous for the Dragon Link deck. I think I'll put it like top of sneaky. Drytron down in rogue. I mean, you get Eva back, but there's no Beatrice, so it's not that good. Fire King Snake Eye, probably going to be up in the best decks. Now that we are down to one Ash, one Poplar, we're going to need some more starters for the Fire deck, and that's where Ponix is going to come back in, and we're going to have Arvada being able to stop the Nibiru play, where Appaloosa was doing that for us before. So I think Fire King Snake Eye is going to reclaim a little bit of representation, especially at the top of the tier list. Fluanderies, it's between sneaky and rogue, probably going to be in the rogue category. Of course, it's a shifter deck, so it always has a little bit of chance to do stuff, but really Fluander is not seeing a lot of play, not a lot of representation, so I think it's going to be down here. Gimmick Puppet, I think, is also going to be in rogue. It wasn't doing much before. Now its consistency is hit quite a bit with the number 40 and C40 hits, and people are not going to want to play this with them being hit. So I think it's down in the rogue category. Of course, we could see somebody sneak up in top of regional with it, but I don't see it. Ice Barrier, unfortunately, down here in rogue as well. I really like this deck. I never really gave it a chance, but I think it is, I don't want to say sneaky because that would be here, but I don't know. I don't see Ice Barrier really doing anything. Maybe up in sneaky. I'll give it a little benefit of the doubt that maybe people are going to be experimenting on this since their previous decks are affected by the list. But yeah, it's between here and here. Infernoid also down here. I don't see any reason to play this deck still. It's just full of bricks and it's just not that good, even though there are some really nice cards with the new level 1 fusion, and the spell cards are really nice, but still it's just not enough to put this deck anywhere. I think Kashtira is up here in sneaky, maybe even up in many regionals tops. I think Cash is going to see a little bit of a resurgence here. I think it's really strong. It's a shifter deck, of course. Plays around Nibiru. You usually don't play into Nib with Kashtira, so I think that we could see this kind of start to pop back up, especially if hand traps are not as necessary and you can play more breakers. I think Cash could see a little bit of resurgence. Labyrinth up here as well, kind of the same situation as Cash. I think it's a little bit better than Cash, but Yeah, I always like this deck. I always think that it's a threat, and I don't know how it's a threat because I look at it and it looks like you go like -4 to set one trap, but it always ends up, you know, topping somehow, or it ends up with victories, and I'm going to give it a little bit of credit. I think it's going to see a lot of regionals play. Melodious, maybe here, maybe down here. I don't know. It's kind of fallen off in popularity. I don't think people are really playing this deck much, so I think we're going to see it down in the sneaky category. You might come across one or two in your regionals, but other than that, it's not very popular. Memento. Memento is probably here in many regionals tops, near the top of the list. I think this deck is very strong. I don't think it lost very much. You know, did it even make Appaloosa? I don't know. You know, I haven't really played against this deck very much. So to be honest, I don't know exactly where it lands, but I know that there's a lot of hype around it, and it's between the bottom of best decks and the top of many regionals tops. So I think I'm going to leave it here. Pendulum decks have been crap for a long time. They're still crap. So we're going to put those down in Rogue. Plant Link is sneaky. It didn't lose anything on the list, I don't think. It was never reliant on Appaloosa. It was never reliant on Fiendsmith Lacrima, on Beatrice. I don't think it lost a darn thing. So it is down in sneaky. I think the quality of the deck overall could put it up here, you know, maybe even up here, but nobody plays this deck. Like, it's very uncommon to see a Plant Link player over here in NA at the very least. So I think it's down here in sneaky still. Pearly, I think, is going to be down here as well. It's just like, it's kind of been power corrupted by some of these other decks like Memento, Fire King Snake Eye, and all that kind of thing. So I think it's down in sneaky. I don't think it's going to see much representation, but I think I'll put it near the top. I think I'll put, let me rearrange this to what I actually think it's going to be, kind of like in this order. Rescue Ace, I think, is going to be up in many regionals tops. You know, it hasn't really lost much. It still has the Diabellestar engine. It still has, you know, just the one Poplar, I think, is all it needed. It doesn't play Ash. Beatrice was nice, and Lacrima was nice, but I think it can still play without those cards. So I think up here in many regionals tops is pretty accurate. Ritual Beast as well. I'm almost tempted to put this up here because it's the best shifter deck. It's like the best anti-meta deck. So you know, it could see some play up here, but I think at the top of many regionals tops is where it should be. Now that I'm looking at the tiers of this, I think I'm going to move Kashtira down because I don't think Kashtira is on the level of any of these decks here. So we're going to do that. Runic for Hire is going to be Rogue. Runic Stun is always sneaky. I just don't think these are the best Runic decks. I think Whitewoods is probably the best Runic deck, so I think we're going to keep that here. Salad is going to be Rogue still. You know, maybe sneaky because it didn't lose anything, right? Did it rely on Beatrice? I don't think so. It didn't make Appaloosa, I don't think. It still got all of its fire cards like Diabellestar, Promethean, whatever, if you're playing any of that kind of version. So I think it's sneaky, but I don't know. It's probably at the bottom. Fiendsmith Snake Eye. Assuming this is kind of pure, sneaky. It needs another engine now, or it needs some kind of consistency. I think like Fire King Snake Eye will be more represented. Kashtira Snake Eye Fiendsmith will be represented, but just pure, I guess here. I guess we'll put it down at the bottom of many regionals tops just to represent any other kind of like interesting techs or interesting filler engines that are going to replace the Ashes and the Poplars or whatever. I think it's still a very good deck. Like, Ash one card combo is still the same. So yeah, it's definitely got to go up in this category. Maybe I'll even move it up some, like towards near Rescue Ace. Sprite, it's like at the top of Rogue. I think it's a good deck. Tier, I'll put it in the sneaky category. It lost Beatrice, right? And that's pretty huge. It can still counter Nib with Bahamut Shark, totally awesome. I don't know. Sneaky is where I'll put it. I think around the top. Tenpai, unfortunately, still up here. Maybe down here. But, yeah. I think I'll put it at the top of many regionals tops. Unchained Fiendsmith, I think it's sneaky. I don't think it's very represented. because anyone who's playing this is just playing Yubel instead, which is up in the best decks, by the way. But yeah, I really like the Unchained version. We'll see what it all comes down to what the non-engine shapes out to be, like what the popular non-engine is. If it's still all hand traps, or if there's breakers, you know, Unchained Fiendsmith is like pure Unchained plays better with breakers because it wants to play Triple Tactics Thrust. It wants to play, you know, targets for that, like talents, like maybe Dark Ruler or whatever. But in a hand trap format, you can't really play Thrust because you need to just have as many hand traps in your deck as possible. So we'll see if it's still a hand trap format or if it's more of a breaker format. And that will kind of affect where this deck lands. Yubel, of course, up here, it's essentially unhit, probably at the top of best decks here. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. It's the same deck as it was last format, basically. Vanquished Soul is down in Rogue, unfortunately. Even though I love the deck, I don't think it's very good right now. Voiceless Voice is in Sneaky, maybe near the top. It's unhit relatively. I don't think, did it play anything that was hit on the list? Maybe Prosperity. So, oh yeah, Prosperity hits are pretty significant. I think we'll move it down a little bit to like here. And then White Forest. I think White Forest is going to be up here in many regionals tops. It's a really solid deck, especially with the Runic package. I hope the toy package sees some like extra help or extra representation because I like the toy version. But it's really the Runic version that's going to be very popular, and I think we're going to see it kind of up here. So this is the tier list that I'm kind of predicting for the regionals that I have in 2 weeks. Let me know what you guys think. Like, where am I kind of wrong? Dragon Link, I want to move this up. I think Dragon Link's going to be a little bit more represented. I don't think Unchained Fiendsmith is at the top. It's something like this. Let me know what you think of this list and this order. Yeah, let me know in the comments below. Leave a like, sub to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And with that, we'll catch you in the next one. We'll see you soon.